So let's talk about Lazy.
Yep.
Let me start that over. One more thing. uh, oh my God. Having a heck of a time, John.
No, that's all right, man.
All right. Let's talk about Lazy. So Lazy is a plugin manager for Neovim. It's written in Lua. It's very modern, has a very good look to it, and uses a lot of modern features, and has a new take on how you set things up. And so, John, you were looking at this as well.
Yep.
I'm coming at this from my old dot files that were originally set up with Vim plug, and I've used that for years and years and years.
Right.
Which is like a Vim plugin specifically. It's written in Vim script, works super well. And I just wanted to kind of take a chance on kind of a newer UI for updating and managing dot files or managing plugins within my Vim dot files. And this seemed like a good one. But before I dig into it, John, why don't you mention kind of what you've been doing?
Yeah. So I saw that you moved to Lazy, and I had looked at it before. I honestly got a little confused because there's like a Lazy Vim thing. So I I wasn't sure if it was like part of that or not, but it's not.
Is this
Um,
the Elijah Manor thing?
yeah, because and actually he's the one who does some pretty good videos on. He actually does a really good video on migrating from Packer to Lazy, which is what I did last night. Um,
Yeah.
the main reason why I wanted to look at it is because with Packer, and there may be workarounds for this. There's probably something I was missing, but one of the things that get really annoyed with Packer is I essentially have to either I have to update the plugin, my plugin config. Generally, maybe I can source it. I can't remember, but then I have to like quit and open up NVim again, and then do a Packer sync or Packer install, then quit, and it just got annoying. And with Lazy, that was one thing I noticed where it was like, oh no, you updated your config file, you can open Lazy. It shows you right there that hey, you have this plugin configured that is not installed,
Mm-hmm.
and you can just go kind of like you do with Mason, you know, navigate to it, press I to install it, and you're pretty much good to go. So that was really interesting. I mean, I'm interested in some of it talks about managing some of the dependency stuff for lazy loading a little bit better, and I think it's a little bit clearer, at least from the way I understand things, on how to make plugins only load whenever they're going to be first used or whenever they're needed. So that's kind of why I was looking at it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's something that Vim plug could do and I would take advantage of it. But Vim can also just do it, I think, based on like the directory structure. Like there's
Yep.
different plugins and you can name things or you can name things like TypeScript dot Vim and it would only load that in TypeScript files, for example. But it's super
Okay.
confusing because I, I don't know. There's
You
tons
have
of
to know
documentation.
yeah, I think there's definitely tons of documentation, and if I don't, unfortunately, I'm the type of person that when the way I learned, if I don't grok something out of the gate,
Mm-hmm.
like it's hard for me to dig further. Like I have to kind of understand the idiom that it's trying to get at, and then I'll probably dig in more and figure it out.
Yep.
But yeah, that was one, and that was the thing I was going to ask you about Vim Plug is like, did Vim Plug provide these abilities? And the only reason why I never looked at Plug is because the only reason why I'm using Vim now is because of Lua. I have zero interest in understanding Vim script. I've purposely stayed away from it. There are some amazing plugins out there that I would love to use, but I do not use them because I have zero interest in trying to figure out how to configure them in Vim script.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Vim script is a very esoteric language, and it's difficult to understand what the heck is going on in it, and it's full of dragons, as it were.
Hmm.
That said, like Vim plug was a super solid one. It's created by the person who also creates FZF, and I believe Let me bring it up. Vim plug. Yeah, June gun.
Hmm.
Yep. So it's got a more minimalist UI. I think that that's the thing that Lua plugins really bring to the table is like they're just prettier in a lot of ways. But I do see a lot of like when I'm looking through people's dot files and kind of trying to figure out, should I try this plugin? Should I not? I see a lot of like ports. It's like, oh, this is a classic Tim Pope plugin that I have ported to Lua.
Correct.
And it is literally only because I want it to be in Lua. And I don't understand that reasoning. I would 100% trust T Pope's Vim script over anyone else's Lua because he's been doing it forever.
Yeah. There are a couple of plugins that I use that specifically from T-Pope that where I don't manage any configuration. And if I have, it may be like one line of something that will just like copy this, put it into my base and and I'm good.
Yeah.
I think I use like his SQL interface or
Oh yeah.
SQL management tool, which is pretty cool.
Yep. I think yeah. There's two plugins that I probably couldn't live without at this point, and one of them is Surround, which like if you use VS Code's Vim plugin or like use the Vim mode in VS Code,
Hmm.
it just bundles Surround. Like
Yeah.
it's basically
I actually
required at
use
this
that
point.
one as well, but that's
Yeah.
one of those ones where it's like I think I pull it in and that's all I need to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the other one that I use pretty darn frequently is Fugitive, which is a Git wrapper
Yeah,
to like
I
do some Git
use
stuff.
yeah, and I just use a float. I use float term and lazy get, so
Mm,
that's kind of what I do.
makes sense. I never
Not
got
as
into
integrated, but I like it.
yeah. Well, let's take a look at my dot files and see what I'm doing with this. So I'll just show kind of the aftermath of setting it up. One thing that I really like about it is that it really let me kind of trim down my dot files a lot. Um, with this plus another like change that I made, but now I just have everything kind of set up as a plugins.lua, and this is the file that I source for my init.lua to set up all of the plugins that I want to use. Um, and in this, I pretty much just copied this exactly, I think, from them.
Yep.
This is another thing that I did have from Lua or from Vim plug as well, was like it will install itself on the first load if it doesn't detect it.
Yep.
And this is what this is doing here is if it doesn't find it, it's going to clone lazy.nvim, the stable branch, and then like prepend that to the runtime path. And then you're good to go, and it can immediately require in lazy and start setting it up. So I really like this setup in Vim plugins that are written in Lua. Like, they all kind of set up this. You're going to bring it in, and then you're going to call setup, and then you can pass in any options that you want to it. And the options that you can pass into Lazy are just the names of the plugins. And as all of these good plugin managers kind of go, they really rely on like GitHub pretty much as the backend for it. You
Yep.
specify just like the repository path without github.com on it. And it's just going to go load that and set it up. And that's a really nice thing because like before this, I was using, speaking of Tim Pope, his Pathogen, like that, I think that was the first plugin manager that I used. And I remember like, if you go back to the early commits of my dot files, that was all set up with like all of the plugins that I wanted to use were brought in by Pathogen, but they were then Git submodules in my dot files. And
Ooh.
it was like, if you want to not use those, you have to go like when you wanted to stop using a plugin, you have to go delete it. So it was like much harder to try plugins
Yeah.
and stuff like that. In this, and with like Vim plug and all of that, if I want to stop using Vim repeat, I just comment it out and it won't load. And that's
Right.
it. So super simple way to kind of get going playing with it, which is really, really nice. It's a Lua table, so you can just pass in. It's effectively like a mix. I could be totally wrong, so don't yell at me. But the way that I understand it is it's basically like a mix of an array or a well, no, this is an array. This is a table that's being used as an array because if you have to go in any deeper. Like all of these just load and they're done.
Yep.
This Goyo, I'm specifically setting up like load in Goyo, and then here is a key map to pass to it. So when I
Yep.
hit leader W, start Goyo. And one thing that is kind of it tripped me up a little bit was like I can't just say Goyo right here and run it. It will say Goyo is not an editor command. And that's because when you set up key bindings within Lazy, it's actually using that to trigger when to load the plugin. So I set up leader W. If I hit that,
Right.
then
That's
it
when it's
loads.
gonna. That was one of the things I thought was cool. Too, it was very clear. It was like if you're passing key bindings in, you're essentially telling it that's when the plugin needs to load and not before that.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. That's one thing that I have to kind of figure out here is do I want to have these key bindings scattered through like this and then other key bindings in other places, or do I want to have like a single consolidated place for all of my key bindings?
Yep.
And that's something that I'm still kind of figuring out. Also, I totally have to figure out the Lua formatter because you can see like this line is modified. I've got this little get signs here saying that
Mm-hmm.
it's modified, and it's adding in this extra spacing, and I don't really fully understand why. If I delete all of that and I hit save, it's just gonna put it back out there.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I think
So
I think most of mine are probably more like your one on 30 to 1, which is essentially like that, where
yep.
it's if it's a table, it's gonna be everything on all the keys are on the new line or whatever. Yeah.
Try
Put
that
it
and
back.
then
That's really weird. I wonder why it's doing that. Which formatter do you use?
let me check Mason.
That's one of the okay, so you use Lua formatter.
Yep.
I use style Lua.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but I know that's what I use that because I actually, and the only reason why I know that is because I went through this and I was like, what do I have installed and why am I using some of these? Because you flail around at the beginning and just copy and paste or install whatever somebody says on the to make something work. But now once I understood things a little bit better, I was like, oh, let me go figure out why I'm using this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it just reinstalled.
That one also builds source and it takes a while.
Yeah. So I'll try that, but that is probably. Oh, look at that! I think Style UI just took over, and it's still got some extra spacing here that I don't
Right.
understand. But
But
okay.
it'll be interesting if you like put it on new lines. If it's like, hey, no, you need to not put it on new lines, or who's actually doing
Oh, there
the
we go.
formatting? Yeah, okay,
So that command that I just hit right there to like make it go from this to this
yeah,
was uh, actually this plugin right here called Split Join. And
hmm.
all I had to do is say get capital S, and it brought them together. And if I say get capital J, it brings them back to one line. That works
Yeah,
across many languages, and it is super helpful. And in like JavaScript and TypeScript, if you have like if you have an arrow function with an implicit return, and you
yeah.
decide, oh no, I do need a return on it, it will actually go and like put curly braces around it and put a return value on it.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah, so it can kind of transition between the two.
You said you what key binding did you say you ran?
Uh,
Get?
it's G and then capital S to split,
Oh, okay, G.
and then
Great.
G and capital J to join.
Okay.
And that's just the default plugins for split join. I don't do any extra.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I just have the. It was serendipitous that it was literally that plugin right there.
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah,
Cool.
um,
What is Goyo, by the way?
Goyo is like, let's say that I open up my README, which I need to fix the markdown formatting in here, but writing markdown in Vim, like this is kind of ugly and annoying.
Mm-hmm.
If I hit that, it puts it into like a more
Oh, okay.
focused kind of setup here. I've got some problems with the styling that I need to fix, so it's not fully baked, but I also love this, like adding in extra um, LSPs. This is telling me that my use of the phrase heart's content is a cliche. Hilarious.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I have way too many plugins, but the way that this sets up, like all of those are pretty straightforward. As we get down kind of more towards the bottom here, I'm trying to think like Neotree, for example, or let's look at LSP config because that's more uh, of another one. Like one really cool thing that Vim plug couldn't do that this can is you can specify dependencies. And so you can say like, oh, I want to use Mason, and that has to make sure that all of these are installed as a dependency for
Yep.
it as well, because this is how I want to set up Mason. So every time you like that way, I don't necessarily have to have like Mason LSP config set up somewhere else. Because you can see I have it down here as well in the NVim LSP config.
Yep.
And that way, like if I were to delete this whole Mason thing and say I don't want to use it anymore,
It'll still
well,
have it for that. Yeah.
yeah, which is
Um,
pretty cool.
Packer had the same thing. It had well, and it might have managed in multiple ways. I know there was after. There was an after equals, and you that would mean that hey, I want you to install this, but you also need to make sure that you install these or these are installed and they go after. So
Hmm.
that was one of the things you just changed after to dependencies equals for migrating to lazy.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's got that, and then it's got this ability to like what is this Neotree, for example. You can specify like a branch. So I'm using the 2.x branch. Should probably look into see if I actually need to specify that. And then I'm specifying its dependencies, and one of them is a window picker. And then in here you can specify like a config. And so like you know how you call like setup? Well, I can
Yep.
just do that here and have it
Yep.
kind of inline. And there's no rhyme or reason, I guess, but kind of the pattern that I've been going with is like if it's pretty small and compact like this, I'll just do it inline. If it's like the LSP config, let me look
Yep.
at my LSP.lua. It's 263 lines, so I'm not going to do that inline.
Right.
And so, yeah, it just kind of sets up, and if you specify config, it'll do that. Another one is that you'll see like, um, let's see, right, no, new, isn't there? Or the config equals. Oh yeah, sorry, it's config equals true. So like this one, Tailwind CSS colorizer completion. But instead of specifying a function, I just passed in the Boolean true.
Yep.
And what that'll do is it'll effectively require this and then call dot setup and pass nothing to it.
Right. Just use the defaults.
Exactly. So for this one, I'm not doing any custom configuration. I'm just saying config equals, or just run the setup. And there's a couple of them that I do that for. So auto pairs, Lua tab, Trouble. Trouble's another great plugin by
Yep.
Folk, which is the creator of Lazy. Um, and so yeah, for those that I just set up, but let's look at like the oops, look at the LSP config. So nvim LSP config, I have it always loading, and I don't specify anything in here for in terms of like setup or config or anything like that. This is
Right.
one that I'm going to go configure on my own. And what I used to have with um, Vim plug was after I specified everything that I wanted, like outside of that, I would down here kind of do like a require and then an nvim LSP config and then call setup.
Yep.
But instead of like a nvim LSP config, I would do like, my, it wasn't exactly that path, but the
Right.
plugin, the path to my file that does that. And that was kind of annoying having like two different places to define these things. And so another change that I made was in the nvim config file, I created an after directory and a plugin directory in there. So after the plugins are loaded, just automatically source and load all of
Yep.
these files. And so
Yeah.
all of these,
I follow that pattern as well, and I was doing that with Packer as well.
that's so nice.
One thing that so and I want to think about this because I think I do like this setup better. It's like if you look at the Elijah Manor video about migrating from Packer to Lazy,
Hmm.
um,
Does he specify this pattern in that?
he starts with hold on just one second. He starts with I think he's taking whatever that very bare bones bootstrap uh Neovim template is. I forget the name of it. He takes that because I believe it uses Packer out of the gate, and he's migrating that to Lazy.
Mm.
And the first step he does is he just takes the configs that's there and migrates it to Lazy, which is very similar to what you have where all the plugins are listed out in that setup, require Lazy, and then call setup, and here's all the plugins.
Hmm.
And after that, the next step he takes is he goes, okay, well now we're just going to pass in a string called plugins, and that means it's just going to go load this Lua directory with all the configurations for the plugins. Now, I don't know that I think I like this setup better because it's almost like if you're messing with express routes or something like that. It's like, where do you want to go see what routes are in your application? Do you want to go to
Hmm.
one file, or do you want to have to like look through a directory and see what's defining what? I think I like having here's all the plugins that I depend on and here and what I'm using, so that way you can easily go in and say I don't want to use this anymore or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I like that a lot. That is kind of a, I was just thinking about it though. It kind of does set up an extra headache a little bit in that, like, let's say I want to stop using get signs. Well, I have to
Yeah.
go into the plugins and find get signs, and then I could delete this line or I could comment it out. But
Hmm.
then, like, if I do that and I run, this is going to load in automatically and try and call get signs, which won't exist, and then it'll explode.
But you don't have to do that, Nick.
I don't.
Yeah. So let me you can load get signs a different way, and let me I don't know it off the top of my head. Let me bring up mine real quick. And I'm not going to share screens, but I'll tell you how to manage that. So if I open mine and if I go to my after plugin directory, and let's say because I have configs for things I don't use anymore. Like actually Tokyo Night. I'm not currently using Tokyo Night.
Mm-hmm.
The way I manage that is this way. And I totally stole this from something. Maybe it was from MV Chat, but I'm going to message this to you in Zoom so that way you can um, see it. So that's how I load Tokyo Night, even though I'm not currently using it. So essentially, I say I use pcall, and
Oh
I
yeah.
want, yep. So that way you can stop using it, but you don't have to get rid of your config. It just won't run that config anymore.
Okay. So let's add this real quick. Status Tokyo. I'll
So
call
in
it
that case, yeah, you can
get
give it yep,
signs. And same thing here. And then if not status, then return end.
yep.
Okay.
And now change your return get signs down there and just call your require there.
Uh-huh.
Get rid of that and just use that get signs variable and call, the setup on it. There you go.
Boom. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
That
now let me just try this real quick. Let me go to get signs. I'll just comment that out and I'll open up a new split and just try and open no errors. Boom.
that's awesome.
So real quick, just to confirm,
Did
there's
Lazy
no,
actually uninstall it then?
but there's no magic. If I revert the changes to get signs and I try and load this, boom, see it
Yep.
blows up.
Okay. Yep.
So I'm going to keep that there and I'm going to convert all of those to that method. And yeah, so putting that back, boom, everything loads.
Yeah, that is a lifesaver for me because at first because I
Mm.
kept trying to use different plugins and it was a kind of a headache doing exactly what you're talking about. Like I gotta go save this config somewhere because I may come back to this plugin and stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I'm sure I've seen this and just not realized
Yeah,
what was going on.
I'm pretty positive I stole it from MV because I'm pretty sure they do that in all of theirs. And of course, I didn't grok any of it at first. I was like, I don't know why you're doing all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, cool. I will try that. And going back to plugins, trying to think if there was anything else that stood out about
So
this.
let's talk about what you just did there real quick because I want to. I This is something I did not. So you just uncommented you. So you commented out get signs,
Yeah.
and then you saved the file. Is Lazy uninstalling it in the background?
No, it's just not loading it into the runtime path for Vim. So it doesn't actually
Ah,
exist.
okay. So if you comment that out though, so say you have it commented out and you open Lazy, does the GUI? I think will the GUI actually show you that? I thought it did. There was something that the GUI was doing that was very interesting. Like so, if you run the colon Lazy and bring up the Lazy management, it doesn't there. So maybe if you add a plugin and it's not actually installed, I thought it was actually like highlighting that. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that.
Maybe it has to do a um check. I mean, there's a check there, right? So it'll see potentially. No.
I think
Oh,
there it's
showing.
telling you what would happen if you updated. I think
Yeah.
if so,
Maybe.
what if you add a plugin? Like if you go into your config and like
Uh-huh.
add some plugin, although that's easier said than done, right? Because what plugin would you just go add?
Yeah. Well, let me do this. So I just kind of to break things out since I just accidentally ran it. I ran an update, and this is how all of these plugins get updated. So these, Capuchin, Mason LSP config, Mason, NeoDev, NVim Color, all of these plugins just got updated. And here's like a subset of the commits, up to
Yep.
10-ish commits or so. Um, and so it's just showing me exactly what got updated, which is pretty cool. That's how you sync and update plugins. And I pretty much run this like every morning.
Hmm.
It's very rarely actually bit me in terms of like breaking things, but
It
um,
happens occasionally.
happens occasionally. But it's not as often as you would think. It's like once every couple of months.
It happened a lot more when I was running on Neovim head.
Yeah, but I just commented out get signs. So let me run X, and this should go through. Won't it? Split join.
I
Okay.
think if you run a sync,
Well, I just
oh, so
uninstalled it.
not installed split join. Okay, yeah,
That's because I just uninstalled it with this
right.
clean. But now, like if I go back in to Vim, it's going to reinstall it. Oh, that was split join. Yep, and it cleaned up get signs. Oops. What? And if I add that back in now that it's not
And
installed,
yeah, and save the file. Well, then it's probably going to just does it automatically install it when you open?
it does. I thought that I had that set up, um, which I accidentally uninstalled split join. I see what I did, and it when I ran it, it installed that right off the bat.
Yep.
Yeah, that's that's premium YouTube content right there. Yeah. Um, I'm very confused as to why I can't find any of these files. What is going on?
What? Oh, I guess what is it not finding?
So I have a plugins.lua. I just start typing plugins.
Oh,
So, oh wait, there it is. Weird.
yeah. It looked like it wasn't finding that there for a few minutes though.
Yeah. I probably just updated a plugin that broke things and now I'm paying the price. Just as I say, I hardly ever have any issues. Oh my. Look at that. I got to
That's
figure out the
interesting.
spacing.
Yeah,
Big
that's
deal.
weird. Why would it do that? And it's doing it on format.
I think I have, let's look at Mason. I think I have both Lua formatter and Style UA.
Oh
Style
yeah,
Lua.
yeah. They're probably having a duel.
Yeah. So I bet that is that's in my LSP setup here. I think that I tell it, yeah, to automatic or ensure that Lua formatter is installed. So I'll just put Style UA and then I'll go into Mason. Oops, yeah, Mason. And I'll third time's the charm, Mason, and then I will tell it to uninstall. Oh no, view uninstall
X.
Lua formatter.
No, it's updating.
Whoop.
If I think you have to hit Shift X.
Shift X. That's the problem. I was hitting X.
I think we'll have to wait for it to build all of its C++ objects.
Lord.
Yeah, I kept hitting U the other day, and I was like, why does it keep rebuilding this Lua formatter?
I'm a professional Vim user, as you can see, and I keep constantly hitting the wrong keys. And
the It's the story of my day, usually.
you know, though, I mean, editing rarely ever slows you down when doing anything. But like, oh, I just did that. We'll just restart and see if it is that. Is it gone?
It looks like it's gone.
Oh wait, right? Yeah, it's gone. Okay.
So
So
now you can
now
see, yeah. That's
that is,
interesting. Now it's not finding your file. What is going
yeah.
on? Oh, well, no, it's
It is. It's like it's. I don't know. I can't. I'll have to debug that later.
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, anyway, boom. Ah,
What is going on?
I need an adult. I don't know.
Unexpected symbol. What's giving those errors? Let's start there. Lewis syntax check. Oh, Stylua being a lot more opinionated. No, this is like literally saying it's a syntax error, right?
Yeah, unexpected symbol. Okay.
I can't even follow. Okay, so
Okay. So things are okay. Hit save. Maybe I fat fingered something. So now it seems okay.
oh, that's interesting. What does it not like about
I
that
bet it's just
line?
the line. Oh no, cannot access table.
Is that table two function self?
Hmm.
That's interesting. I actually turned off the hidden text or whatever that's called, virtual text. I
Oh
That
yeah.
drives me crazy because it seems like it's always cut off. Like it's like so. I just
You just
used
keep trouble open.
yeah. I'll toggle trouble whenever, so that way I can just be like, what is this thing saying?
Hmm. I don't know if you can tell, but I actually have no status line. Trying a super minimalist thing
Yeah, I
here.
did notice. I just noticed that because I was like, where is the thing that would tell me that trouble has issues?
Yeah. I was using Feline as my status
Yep.
plugin. And I think that yeah, it's now been archived.
I think I'm using that, so I need to go look.
Yeah.
What the
And I
hell?
was
Why?
like, oh, because no time and can't find a maintainer to pick it up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's plenty of other plugins. There's Lua line.
I
There's
specifically started using Feline for a reason, though. Maybe I stopped using it. See, this is where having your all these plugins in your all these plugin configs in your directory. So I'll just need to open my plugins file. Luckily, my fuzzy shirt search works. I don't know why yours is broken now.
no.
Pretty sure I'm using Feline. I could type as well. Yeah, I'm using Feline. Well, crud.
No, it's that time. My son knows that I'm on a call and he's
Oh,
going to
sweet.
swat me with a fly swatter.
These are my favorite parts of the videos. We're gonna have to start paying him to come in at a specific time in the videos.
I'm sorry, buddy. Oh, classic.
Who
um,
wrote? Who maintains Feline? I thought it was somebody who was pretty popular.
MU.
Yeah, Falmu. He was he actually does a lot for just baseline Neovim, I thought.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he's maybe they are super busy. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'll have to go look. Maybe they're also like, oh, there's other plugins. Go use those.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying this more minimalist thing now and seeing if that works. And so far, like it's kind of annoying. Like I don't really get an indication. If I'm at the top of the file, I don't get an indication that there's anything at the bottom of the file that's wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so far that hasn't bitten me, but I don't know. Vim is a constant work in progress for me. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I'll have to look at what I'm actually using that file. If it's literally for trouble notifications, then I can probably figure out a better way to. I can just toggle it and see if there's something down there.
yeah,
Hmm. This is cool, man. Thanks for going over Lazy. I like I said, I had seen it around, and then you told me that you had migrated it to it, so I wanted to chat about it a little bit.
yeah.
I still think that's weird that it's complaining about that because your other formatter, and that's not even a formatting thing. That's like a, does it tell you who's complaining about it? Lua
Lua.
Diagnostics. What does he want to go play?
He just brought me a rope and he's like, "Let's play this."
Sweet. Oh, he wants to play jump rope. All right. Well, you should go play jump rope.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a very erratic run through of Lazy and how I'm using it.
Oh, it was
Uh
perfect.
yeah, I like it. I like Lazy. I mean, it's a good plugin manager. I have no problems with it so far. I thought that I was going to kind of have it in a branch for a while, and I pretty quickly migrated it or merged it into main. And yeah,
Yeah, I did the same thing. I did it in a branch, and then I came to my other computer, and I'm like things are like it's the only thing that kind of sucks about migrating something like the plugin manager was I had to go run a couple of commands to like get rid of Packer stuff because it would literally break things if you're using Packer and Lazy. It was just kind of weird, but
oh yeah,
cool.
yeah.